Hey, what's up, everybody? Christian Brindle here. I'm joined here with Glen Shelton, my business partner, founder of
Woo.
Lead Heroes, and we're going to be bringing you guys a super exciting, educational, insightful, value-packed mini series, a 17-day mini series where each day we will provide for you an additional step on what you need to know to successfully buy leads. And what we mean by that is have a successful experience buying leads. So Glenn,
Absolutely.
what's the topic of video number one?
Christian, tell us why, if you don't know who you are or who I am, why should an agent who's watching this pay any attention?
Yeah, I mean, first off, I've always been a big believer at taking advice from people who have done what you're wanting to do. And if you're watching this, I'm
100%.
assuming that what shit is that you want to do is you want to be able to successfully make a lead purchase and have a very healthy ROI on that lead purchase, right? So
Yes.
there's probably not two better people qualified than us on here, right? So not only, as Glenn mentioned, not only is he the architect of the lead, right? Like, is there anybody that can better guide you to crack the code of a lead than the person that designed it, generated it? Like, he's the godfather of this lead, you know? And
That's
for
yeah.
me, yes.
Yes.
And and for me on my end, right? Like as an agent, coming from the other side of it, before we actually started partnering with Lead Heroes in the way that we do now, like we were a routine customer and a routine purchaser of the leads at Lead Heroes, and we had great success with them from an ROI perspective. And for me personally, as an agent, on my own pen, I've sold thousands of insurance policies. I've gone on tens of thousands, maybe 100,000, maybe that many, but I've done tens of thousands of
For
appointments.
sure.
I've been a top producer for 6 different carriers, most of which multiple times over. So I know a thing or two when it comes to selling insurance. And I know a thing or two about working leads and being able to get the most out of leads. If any of you have followed me for a while, back in the COVID year in 2020, I actually did a lead review series where I bought various just random different types of insurance leads and reviewed them and worked them myself and showed my results and kind of documented the whole thing. Like, I'm no stranger to leads and working leads. And so, yeah, I mean, that's essentially the type of experience that's on this video and that's going to be taking place during this series.
Welcome to day 2 of our 17-day How to Succeed Buying Insurance Leads. Today we're going to be covering lead buying prep. What should you be doing before you even think about buying insurance leads? Again, especially if it's your first time ever buying insurance leads. Christian, let's say you're a brand new agent, you've never bought insurance leads before. What is one of the first things that you would recommend doing?
I think if you've never bought leads before, there's a couple of things I think you need to be aware of, right? Having the right expectations of the leads, I think, is everything, right? So
Yes.
there's so many times, and I only hear this from people that are brand new that have never called a lead a day in their life, where they're like, if they're, I talked to an agent one time and he was like, what do you think of these leads? I'm like, well, they're all right, blah, blah, blah. I don't even remember what kind of leads we're talking about. And his response was like, he's like, well, I'm a pretty good salesperson. If they're any good, I should get about a 90% close rate. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm like, well, then you are insurance God then,
Yes.
because it's
Yes.
never happened. It's not going to start,
Yep.
um, unless you're just completely working referrals. So understand that going into it, that a healthy margin of close ratio is probably, I've always said anywhere between 15 to 20% is kind of your average close ratio, right? On leads. I think if you're doing higher than that, like if you're doing 25 to 30%, you're doing terrific. Anything above that is just absolutely fantastic. And some people be like 15%, 20%, that doesn't sound too good. Well, if you do the math on what you spend versus what
Right.
you're making substantially more. So it's a great ROI, and that's why the lead game ultimately works. So have the proper expectations would be the first thing I would tell you. The second thing I would tell you is, first thing we want to find out is actually what kind of lead is it that you want,
Right.
right? What
Right.
is the type of person that you're wanting to target?
That's a
Is it
great point.
Is it Medicare supplement people? Are you looking for people that have Medicare supplements? Maybe you shop their rate and try to, write them on the same plan they have, lower their rate. Are you trying to find turning 65 people? Are you trying to find final expense individuals? Who is it that you are looking for in particular? And identifying that, I feel like, is super key. And to me, I feel like those are the two things you need to prepare for. Like, have the details of what you want in terms of your ideal lead, and then also walk into it with the proper expectations. Glenn, what else do you think
Yeah,
that they need to know?
I think those are fantastic, by the way. The expectation thing, that's something, again, at Lead Heroes, guys, as CEO, I've been trying to manage expectations of insurance agents, agency owners, IMOs, and FMOs for the past decade. And I can't stress it enough. Even though people lose track of the numbers, a lot of times they just think with their mind, with their emotions, and they're like, oh man, that was a bad lead, or that was a bad batch of leads. But if you are to actually pencil out the math and, okay, I bought 30 leads, I closed 3 of them, each client has a lifetime value of over $1,000. Oh my gosh, I just generated over $3,000 in lifetime client value versus a $500 spend. You just got a 600% ROI, but you also had 27 leads that you didn't close. So it becomes this mindset perspective where, are you coming to it with the right expectations? Are you coming to it realizing that if I just close 10%, I'm going to have a big ROI? Or are you getting lost in the sauce and you're hearing all those no's and you get negative, you get down on yourself, nobody's buying. I only got 3 sales out of 30. I wanted to close 20 leads. So I think expectations are everything. The one thing I wanted to add is schedule. What is your schedule going to be? And planning ahead of time. This isn't like Walmart where you just walk in, you grab something off the shelf, you throw it in the back of the car, and you'll get to it when you get to it. You need to make sure that when you purchase these leads, you have the time set aside to work them, that your schedule is open, that you have a spot available to work them, whether you're working from home, you have an office, outside of your home. So having a place to work the leads and having a schedule that gives you the availability to work the leads, because they don't work themselves.
Yep.
These insurance leads don't work themselves. It does require time and energy on your part. Otherwise, I would never even offer to sell a single insurance lead, right? If it was as easy as generating it and they just sold themselves, obviously Christian and I would keep all of those for ourselves internally, but there is a lot of work that goes into it. There is a lot of activity that is required as an agent when it comes to creating that application. And that's the whole process, right? That's how you go from spending money on marketing to hopefully generating an ROI. So that is our second video in our 17-day mini course series, How to Succeed Buying Insurance Leads. So that being said, Christian, any final thoughts on day 2?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, guys, what I would tell you as my final thoughts on this video is just be prepared to work the leads. Like Glenn said, they don't work unless you do. And that would be my final thoughts.
Welcome to day 3 of our 17-day mini course, How to Succeed Buying Insurance Leads. I'm Glen Shelton. This is my business partner, Christian Brindle. And today we're talking about something I'm super excited to get into, because this is, in my opinion, a critical piece of a successful insurance agent, a critical tool in their toolkit that they really have to have, and directly applicable to buying insurance leads. If you are looking to talk to more prospects, maybe you're trying to sell in person, you're trying to sell over the phone. Christian, what are we talking about today?
Talking about CRMs and dialers, my friends. We're getting into some technology with you. You know what I'm saying? So I'll talk about the CRM and then I'll let Glenn talk about the dialer. Okay. So CRMs, guys, really have 2 primary purposes. And there's a million things a CRM can do, but these videos are short. I want to cover the main things. Keep the main thing, right? As the great Stephen Covey once said. CRM's top 2 things that when it comes to leads is keeping track of them and organizing them in one place. And secondly, automating them. Guys, you need automations within your lead process. Okay. You need automations because they increase your touch points. I've always said The person that is the best salesperson is not always the best person that wins the lead game. Ultimately, it's
Yes.
usually the person that, I mean, don't get me wrong, sales skills definitely help, but it's more often the person that has the highest contact rate. And contact rate goes up when touch rate goes up, right? The lead
Yep.
game is a contact sport. So
100%.
what you guys need to be having in the CRM stands for Client Relationship Management System, right? So but it's not only just for your clients, it's also for leads. So when it comes to CRMs, right, we have one that's actually coming out ourselves. I could talk about a million different CRMs, but why would I do
That's
that when
right.
I can talk about ours, right? You want to be in ours.
Yes, you do.
You want to
Yes.
be, come
Yes.
on,
Click
come
the link
on.
below. Our waiting list is right below this video. Guys, I could not be more excited. We have been spending a lot of time, energy, money, and resources on the development of our own CRM system, both for our internal agency, our downline agents, and also for all of you out there who might be watching this. So if you are in the market for a CRM, if you don't like the one you're currently using, if you don't have one, if you're thinking about getting one, click the link below, sevenfigurecrm.com. We will be launching soon. Could not be more excited. But until then, let's talk about, again, why a CRM is so important. And maybe we throw a couple names out there of CRMs in the space that are already out of the box solutions. So if you do need something today, right now, you can go get one.
Yes, yes. So
Top
I'm
top CRMs. What
top.
would you say?
I mean, I'm going to leave Go High Level out of it because
Yeah.
there's so many white labeled Go High Level systems. There's so much that comes with that. I mean, you know, so I'm going to leave Go High Level out of it. Ultimately, I would say Go High Level is my number one, but let's just say
Yep.
non Go High Level solutions, right? I would say Agency Block. Our friends over at Agency Block do a fantastic
Absolutely.
job. You know,
Shout out Agency Block.
they actually did a acquisition of Radius, formerly known as Radius Bob. Some of you might be familiar with. So their capabilities in terms of automations have gone up exponentially with their new combined product. They're doing a great job over there. So I would say Agency Block / Radius, right? They're going to be probably number one on my list if we're taking Go High Level out of it. I would say number two is Medicare Pro. I've been very impressed by what I've seen with Medicare Pro out there, specifically designed for the Medicare agent. So, like, you get some of these CRMs like HubSpot, right, and Salesforce,
Zoho.
Zoho,
Yeah.
they're designed for all these
Yeah.
different types of niches. What I really like about Agency Block is it's insurance sales focused, but Medicare Pro is specifically niched down even more than that to where it's specifically tailored to the Medicare agent. So those two are fantastic options to look if you need one right now and you can't wait.
That is, I think, two great recommendations. Again, beyond Go High Level for CRM systems. I wanted to talk really here why it's so important from the lead buying perspective. And really, number one is reporting and tracking. So obviously, the actual utility of the CRM, Christian talked about already. Contact attempts, staying in front of these people, touch points. That's your ability to use the CRM. Now, when you're buying insurance, tracking and reporting is extremely important because if you are just printing out your insurance leads, throwing them up in the air, and you're just like, I don't know, did I close them? Did I not close them? And then all of a sudden you're caught in your head. Being objective and seeing the numbers and no, I bought 30 turning keys. I spent $510. I got told no by 10 of them. 10 of them I still haven't gotten a hold of. 5 of them I already wrote an application on. Another 5 I have to follow up with. They might turn into a sale, they might not. That's something that you need to know internally for yourself and for your agency.
Mm-hmm.
That's why a CRM is so important when it comes to people with buying insurance leads. Guys, that is day 3 of our 17-day mini course.
Welcome back, guys, to our mini series of how to be successful in buying insurance leads. And on this segment of this 17-day mini series, on our 17-day promo of our $17 Lead Hero leads, something that you're not going to see very often at all. These leads are over 50% discounted, fantastic value, real time, and exclusive leads at that. We're bringing you
That's
guys
right.
some great value continuing on, with what we've been doing in this mini course. In this segment, we're going to be talking about dialers when you're actually working leads. Glenn, what do the people need to know about dialers?
There is a huge plethora of different dialers that you can utilize as an agent. And I think having an understanding of what your needs are and being self-aware of your needs before going dialer shopping would probably be really helpful. We discussed in our last video, we talked about CRMs, and a lot of CRMs include basic dialer functionality now inside them.
Mm-hmm.
And for most agents, if you're just an independent agent, you're just using it to maybe call leads and set appointments for yourself. Maybe a simple single line dialer, which again, that's the average dialer that I'm seeing in most of these CRM systems. Maybe that makes sense for you, and you don't need to go dialer shopping at all. You can have a one-stop shop with your CRM. If your CRM system doesn't have a dialer, or if you are choosing not to use a CRM system, then there are a lot of dialer options that could potentially be beneficial in your sales process. It takes, as we all know, it can take 5 to 10 to even 10 plus phone calls to one lead just to get them on the phone.
Yep.
That is just the nature of the beast, right? Everyone wishes that they could have a lead where it's single call, or maybe they want that lead to immediately be ready as soon as they're ready to talk to them. But that's just not how it works. You
Mm-hmm.
typically have to call someone 5 to 10 times in order to get them on the phone to maximize your contact rate, which is the name of the game. And that's what dialers are really great at doing. Getting you in front of your prospect, getting them back on the phone. So some outside dialer solutions that I'll throw a couple of options out there. If you are dialer shopping and you're looking for something maybe a little more robust, again, at Lead Heroes, we have an enterprise level dialer that we find is super beneficial to helping us contacting leads, getting in front of folks. So a system like what we have might be over the top, but I'll give a shout out to Five9. I think they're probably one of the best in the industry when it comes to dialing solutions. And another one that I think, well, let me ask you before I throw two out there, Christian. Is there a dialer system that you feel like you've seen mentioned in agent circles? Oh, you know what? Kixi, that's a great one. If you guys aren't familiar with Kixi, they are a power line dialer that can be, again, beneficial with helping you guys get in front of these leads. Any others that you can think of, Christian?
The one I've heard talked about from time to time is Prospect Boss. We always have Prospect Boss. I'm not as knowledgeable about dialers. I don't know that many of them. But Glenn is right. Like even if you are, let's say a starting out agent and you may not need like an actual power dialer, or
Right.
multi-line dialer or anything like that. I mean, even a lot of go high level systems will have a dialer
Right.
kind of built into it, right? So you can have one
Yep.
within your system. But yeah, I mean, dialers are super important and they help you be able to contact the lead ultimately, right? They're much more important than people talk about commonly.
And the efficiency gain that I see internally at our call center when we're utilizing dialer software like this to go from, single line dialing, calling the number to, you put your headset on and you're just getting someone on the phone talking to you through your headset. It's about a 3 to 4 times increase in efficiency. So
Mm,
you're able to speak with 3 to 4 times as many people within the same amount of time versus if you were individually trying to dial, if not more. Again, it just depends on your system when you're dialing out. If you're doing like a click to dial, maybe that's a little quicker than manually dialing, and then you have power line dialing. So there's a lot when it comes to dialers to think about. But for most agents, if you are an independent agent and it's just for your own use, there's probably a dialing system that's inside your CRM. You might not need to go externally. The other thing you can do is just use your phone too. You don't have, I don't recommend starting with your phone because what happens there is you're going to start getting inundated on your personal number with work calls. And maybe you want a nice clean line of separation where you're like, hey, this is my office number. This is my personal number. that's something to take into consideration before calling your leads. But if you're not sure where to start, or you're like, I don't even know if I need a dialer, just pick up your phone and start dialing. Pick up your phone and start dialing, and don't stop calling until you get 70 to 80% of these leads back on the phone. It's really that simple. So guys, that is day 4 of our 17-day mini course, How to Succeed. Guys, welcome to day 5 of our 17-day mini course, How to Succeed with Buying Insurance Leads. This is so awesome to be able to give you guys the opportunity. $17 leads for 17 days. Click the link below if you're looking for Medicare supplement, turning 65, or final expense leads. We have you covered at a massive discount until May 27th. That being said, let's jump into today's video. We're going to be going over one of the most important things, in my opinion, when it comes to being successful with buying insurance leads, and that is your budget. How much are you comfortably able to spend on marketing? Christian, tell us about budget. How would you explain to someone on how to pick their budget? Or maybe you could talk about a time when early on in your career, you were deciding on what your budget was. I think that would be awesome.
Yeah. It makes me think back to when I was a wee lad and I first started buying leads. Okay, so
little Johnny boy.
Little Billy. I was
little Billy. Sorry, yeah, little Billy. So little Billy Christian.
Yes. So you're watching this, you're little Billy, and you need to buy some leads. What I did when I first started buying leads is I set aside a budget for myself every single month. And this budget was designed to be something that I could pay every month that would almost be treated like a bill. It'd be treated like a car payment, car insurance, rent payment, mortgage payment, etc. And it was something that I had to be able to pay every month without not being without preventing myself from maybe buying groceries for the month or something like that, right? So what was that for me? Well, when I first started buying leads, it was like $500 a month, and it slowly grew to 1,000, 1,500. Before I knew it, it was in the multiple thousands, right? Now we're spending an ungodly amount of money on marketing, everything like that. But when I started, it was $500, and you know, you have to figure out what that budget is for you, right? Based on your lifestyle, your expenses, etc. But that's usually what I recommend to people is figure out what that number is and base it off of what can you commit to every month, right? If you took on this amount of recurring bills every single month that you couldn't get out of, let's say it's a contract of some kind, would you be able to pay it? And would you still be able to go to the grocery store and feed your family? And that's how I would recommend putting together a budget. And then I'd commit and I would not waver. Every month I'd be spending this on my leads because I need lead flow to grow my business.
I need the leads.
The
one of the biggest mistakes, I want to talk about this too, in the concept of budgeting for marketing. The biggest mistakes, and I was guilty of this as an agent myself, but there is this idea among agents and maybe even some agency owners where they are thinking about a budget like a one-time expense, where they look at a lead purchase or a lead order or marketing dollars and they're like, I'm going to do this one time and then I'm golden. I'm great. And sometimes they'll even have the success and they'll go from, again, point A to point B to see, you know, okay, I bought the leads, I worked the leads, I had an ROI, I was successful with this lead order, and they stop buying because they already bought the one time. I'm going to take the next couple of weeks off. All of a sudden you're drowning because, again, you're not getting enough people. You're not in front of enough prospects, which means you're not creating enough sales, which means you're not making any money. So this has to be a reoccurring budget. You have to have that in mind. Maybe it's a weekly budget, monthly budget, quarterly budget. However you structure and design it is ultimately up to you. But I really liked how Christian worded that. Is it needs to be something that you're comfortable with, that's similar to your grocery bill where you have to keep paying that. You need to make sure that you are getting those leads, getting those prospects into your agency.
And maybe like it's not even something that you take it from that approach first time if it's your first time buying leads, but that should be the goal, right? Is coming up with a recurring marketing budget. Guys, that wraps up. Which week are we on? I don't even remember.
We're already on day 5.
Day 5. We're on day 5 of our mini course, We'll be back with day 6. What's up, everybody? Welcome to day 6 of our mini course of how to properly buy leads. And by properly buying leads, I mean how to actually buy them and succeed with them. Today, we're going to be talking about scripts, calling scripts, everything you need to know about calling scripts. Glenn, what is the number one thing that comes to mind when you think about scripts that the people need to know about?
The first thing that comes to mind when I hear calling scripts, it's the introduction. When you finally get someone on the phone and they say hello, that first 10 seconds is critical in my opinion. You've got the fish on the line, but you've got to set the hook, right? Like you've got to snag them right away. And I think honestly, in my opinion, when agents are failing at a high rate with any type of lead, a lot of times that's like the core issue in my opinion is what are you saying when you first get them on the phone? And before we get into what you should say, let me talk about what I think the agents that are failing, what they say a lot of times, because sometimes it's just avoiding these pitfalls is the path to succeeding with insurance leads. So what not to say, hey, I'm a life insurance agent calling you back. I just wanted to give you a quick quote. Do you have a second? Or, hey, Mrs. Jones, I'm calling about that Medicare supplement plan. It looks like you're ready to sign up for a new one. Saying something that's just so bluntly sales. That's the problem that I think a lot of people run into, where they're just trying to get straight into a quote. They're not doing anything to really set that hook to grab their attention, to make them want to understand more. What I would say, again, calling as an agent myself, I'm going to quickly reference the previous phone call or the lead piece. That's the hook. That's what I'm going to set. So if Mrs. Jones picks up the phone, I'm going to say, hey, Mrs. Jones, you got that call the other day regarding burial benefits for seniors. I'm the specialist giving you a call back. It looks like you said your favorite color was purple. Is that correct? So immediately you want them to understand that you're not just some Joe Schmo calling them out of the blue. You're calling them for a specific reason, and you want them to think like, oh, I'm supposed to be talking to this person. Like in my mind, that's the psychology that's critical is, oh, I need to talk to this person, or they're calling me for a reason. That being said, so I want to hear your perspective, Christian. When it comes to really setting that hook on that initial point of contact, what do you think agents really need to know?
Yeah, I think I agree with everything you said. You hit it right on the head. I think you want to make sure that you don't sound like a salesperson, right? Like you want to not come across like a salesperson because people have been trained since they were wee lads in our country to avoid salespeople, right? So if you call up and you sound extremely salesy, some things that you can do to sound extremely salesy, if that's your goal, don't do that. But if that's your goal, call them Mr. Last name or Mrs. Last name, right? Like refer to them as Mr. or Mrs. Last name. That will completely get people hanging up on you. Like call them their first name. So if I'm calling Mark Jones, I'm not going to call up and I'm going to say, hey, Mr. Jones, this is Christian Brindle from Handy Dandy Insurance. No, there's a lot of agents that do that. I see it constantly. So call up and say, Mr. Jones, this is Christian, right? First off, time is incredibly important when you're making calls and you're putting together your scripting because you have a very finite amount of time before they hang up on, and you have to get your point across before that they can actually react to hang up on you. And so like Glenn said, right, you want to hit the hook. You want to hit the hook and you want to have the opportunity to hit the hook. So many agents never even get a chance because they call up and they're like, Mr. Jones, this is a handy dandy, how's the weather today?
Right.
Is the sky blue? Stay away from that shit. So get to the point. Quick. Speed. I said one time that I thought you had 7 to 10 seconds in your intro.
Yeah.
And somebody actually came back who was and told me, in a private message, they're like, I think you have more like 5 or 6 seconds. And I was like, damn. I'm like, that might be true though.
It might
Um,
be.
so you just have to be quick to the point, no messing around. And I think people will ultimately have a lot more respect for you as well because you are respecting their time. You're not beating around the
Yeah.
bush. You're being quick. And people
Yeah.
actually in our society today, they like quick, they like to the point. They don't like to be kept on the phone forever and ever and ever. And the people that do, they're the people that waste your time. They're the ones that that talk your ear off and they just want somebody to talk to. You don't want those people. So, yeah, I mean, I would just say quick and to the point. Don't sound like a salesperson. And I think those keys are going to be vital when you're putting together your scripting.
Listening to, and what we'll do is we'll link below this video, wherever you guys are watching this. Christian actually called the Lead Heroes Turning 65 leads, which are on discount right now for over 60% off for just $17 per lead. But he actually called these leads, and listening to his approach reminded me that a lot of times it's just about keeping these people on the phone.
Yes.
Second they hang up, it's over, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have zero opportunity to close once they hang up. But if you can get over the hump, right? That initial, maybe it's a little weird where they're like, what is this about again? Why are you calling me? Do I even really need to talk to you? If you can keep them on the phone and get past that, a lot of times that can be the biggest hurdle, right? Because there's so many other agents out there that will not get past that. So if you can just be the one that does, that can sometimes open up the door. So we will have a link to Christian's hour-long calling session with these Turning 65 leads. I mean, I don't know what else. This is like spoon feeding a baby, in my opinion. Check out that other video. It's incredible. It really is. I actually did a reaction video
Yes.
to that video. So you can also see my live reaction as I'm going through it, listening to his calls of the Turning 65 leads. Both of those videos I thought were great. We'll have both of those linked. But that is day 6 of calling scripts, what to say, what not to say when you first get on that phone with a prospect for final expense, Medicare supplement, or Turning 65 leads. Again, only until the 27th of this month will you have the opportunity to purchase these at such a big discount. Please, please, please don't
Huge.
wait. It's huge. Christian, final thoughts on calling scripts.
Yeah, I mean, I think don't overthink it. Talk like a human being, talk like a person, like you're talking to another person. I think that's ultimately for me when calling. And if you go and watch that video of me calling, you might notice like the intent is very much to sound normal, relatable, matching their energy,
Yep.
all of those things, and just really kind of being in unison with them, but sounding like a person. Sounding like
Yes.
you want to, the best way I can describe it is you want to sound like somebody that they'd be like, I'd want to get a beer with that guy or girl.
Yeah.
You know
Or
what I
girl.
mean? Like
Yeah.
I've had
Yeah,
so
you're
many,
a person. Yeah, I love
you're a
that.
person, you're a person. I've had so many
Yeah.
clients over the years that I've sold policies to that they want like a personal relationship with me afterward. That's the negative of that. And
You're too
that
friendly.
story for another video. But yeah, I mean, those would be my final thoughts. Just sound like a person.
I love it. Welcome back to day 7 of our 17-day, $17 leads mini course. I couldn't be more excited today to talk about tonality. What are you sounding like when you are talking with a prospect? You could be sitting with them face to face. If you're over the phone, it's even more critical. I would say tonality is probably 90% of telesales, in my opinion. I did a ton of appointment setting work as an agent. So I did a lot of phone work. Even though initially I wasn't selling over the phone, I was still having to talk to people over the phone a ton. And
Mm-hmm.
I naturally found myself talking in a certain way to keep people on the phone. And in my opinion, too, just to really get right to the point on this one, you guys, I felt like I lowered my pitch a lot. I talked in a lot deeper voice. There's like an authoritative piece of it that I felt naturally kind of come to it. If you're talking in a high pitched voice and, hey, what's going on, Mrs. Jones? What's going on? Can I talk to you for a second? Hang on, I need to get you on the phone. I feel like that's like naturally you're more inclined to just not want to talk to that person, right?
Woohoo!
It's making you,
Woohoo!
hey, hey, guys. So I'm curious though, that being said, Christian, talk to me about tonality when you're talking to a leader, you're talking to a prospect, it could be, that first phone call, or maybe you're literally at the kitchen table. What's your tonality like?
Yeah, so for me, I found also the sweet spot is kind of lowering my voice a little bit, but I'm trying to lower my voice to the point where it's like calming. I don't want to
Right,
stress the person out. So like
right,
if you guys did watch that video of me calling leads, you might notice is like I don't I stay right here and I don't go here, here, here. It's not like this in terms
right.
of the urgency. Like it's almost like I'm Jokic of talking. I'm Nikola Jokic of talking. I'm not going too fast. I'm not going too slow. I'm
Yeah,
going exactly at my pace, and but it's also deepening my voice as well, right? And so a lot of it might be like, Mrs. Johnson, my name is Christian. I'm getting back with you on a conversation you had with one of my associates, right? Like it's
right.
enunciating certain words.
Yeah,
But you want them to have almost like a calming, soothing feeling when they're speaking to you. And I feel like that honestly helps people want to stay on the phone with you. One thing we ended day 6 with on scripting was a lot of this is just getting them to stay on the phone with you, right?
sure.
And so there's such a thing as like stressing a client out. I know for me, you know, that's a huge part of it. And I think, you need to pick which words to emphasize. You need to pick, where you're going to really, give a little bit of extra oomph
Totally.
to something. So you lose so much communication that human beings have when you're on the phone only with somebody, right? You lose eye contact, you lose facial expressions,
Right.
you lose body language, like whatever you're doing. There's a lot of like if I'm talking to Glenn and I'm like I'm telling him something, I'm like, yeah, so this weekend we did this. He's gonna be like, the fuck are you doing, right? Like, but I could be doing that on the phone and nobody's gonna know. I'm gonna be like,
Yeah,
Mrs. Johnson, I'm getting back with you on,
it's true. It's true.
like
It's true.
so you have to make
Now
up
I'm,
for.
I'm I'm imagining you calling your lead. You're just dancing in your office. You're like, "Hey, Mrs. Jones, let's talk about quotes." That's that's hilarious. I would say too, there's a part of this, you guys, where I think matching your prospect's energy, that's something that naturally I feel like I got pretty good at too. Initially, I was more of like a classic kind of railroad salesperson where like I would get in the house and like it's like, hey, we're going my way or the highway, you
Hmm.
know? But then I realized like that's not, people don't want to be strong-armed into talking about anything. So what I found was like trying to really match my prospects approach made a infinitely huge increase in not only my close percentage, but just my ability to pitch and get someone to listen to what I want to talk about, Sometimes people are going to be a bit more low energy, slow pace for, again, whatever reason. So sometimes I would try to match that, their tone, their pace, yeah, it's been a long day, what are you doing? Talking slower. Again, matching, I think emotional transference is a superpower for salespeople. If you get really, really good at it, and I've gotten to see some salespeople who are incredible at it. I mean, just chameleons, where you get in the room and they are now immediately connecting with that prospect because of that. And the prospect's like, oh, they're like me.
Hmm.
So I think, yeah, and I also really liked what you said about highlighting certain words.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's almost like they won't hear what you're saying, but then if you change your tone or your pitch on certain words, it will register differently for them, especially if you're on the phone. I
Yeah.
think that's huge. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And I think kind of something that kind of relates to what you said about kind of staying on their level with their tone. That's so key. Also, when you're staying on their level and you're remaining completely in agreement with them and you don't break the agreement, right? Like I've joked on stage before at the summit where I've like, when I'm talking about this topic and I'm like, you're a Democrat. I'm like, me too. Go Joe.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you're a Republican? Trump train,
Yeah.
baby. Let's go. Like what? I'm not. I'm
Let's go, Brandon.
yeah, yeah. So like staying in agreement with them.
Vote blue no matter who.
Yeah.
Let's go, Brandon. I was like, I'm on everybody's team. Let's
Yeah, right.
go.
Right. Like and I did do quite a bit of that early on in my career. I had one client bust me. She went and Facebook stalked me. And
Oh,
saw some stuff I had posted politically. I took it all down since. I don't post really
yeah,
much about politics
same.
now. But like I had one client bust me ever out of God knows how many.
Yeah,
And
it's a great point though.
I think it's a great thing to stay in line, right? To stay at their level, go up to their level energy wise, go down to their level energy wise, because they're going to feel a comfort with you. And people buy from people they like, know, trust, right? And
Yeah,
they're going to like you if they're comfortable with you. They're going to trust you if they're comfortable with you. And they're going to get to know you. They're going to feel like they know you because, like Glenn said earlier, they're like me.
yep,
So I think that's a great, and then I think that's a great point, and I think that's ultimately my thoughts on tonalities
tone.
that you guys.
Yeah, it's a subtle thing, and I think most training, sales training, insurance sales training, I think misses this. They just go right over it. But tonality can be a big difference. Sometimes that's the difference between them hearing you out on your presentation or just not wanting to talk to you at all. So some really great points. You guys, this is day 7 of our 17-day mini course, How to Succeed at Buying Insurance Leads. What is success? It's having that positive ROI.
What's up, guys? Welcome to day 8 of our mini course of how to successfully buy insurance leads. And by successfully buying insurance leads, what I mean is having a nice, big, fat ROI when you're buying them, right? Like you don't want fat in that many areas of your life. You want fat with ROIs,
You
right?
do.
We're talking about appointment setting. There's so much to be said about appointment setting.
There
I
is.
think it segues super well after what we talked about the previous 2 days with scripting and tonalities. Glenn, what do the people need to know about appointment setting?
I think top of mind with appointment setting, and again, thinking back as an agent myself, I think being concise, being shorter and to the point is a big key to success here. I think a lot of people are distracted, and like again, especially if you're trying to, if the appointment setting is for a face-to-face sales appointment, this is the argument I always make. If you are only selling face-to-face and you're getting on the phone with a prospect and the goal is to set an appointment so you can then sell them face-to-face, why would you talk about really anything else? Why would you like sometimes a little bit of rapport building is okay, but getting into a 10 or 15-minute phone call or 20-minute phone call to try to set an appointment that can be set in 3 to 5 minutes, in my opinion, is completely asinine. You might talk yourself out of the sale. You're wasting your time when you could potentially be setting more appointments, right? If I'm setting an appointment potentially in 3 to 5 minutes and I'm spending 20 minutes on the phone with someone, you also don't know too, once you get out to that prospect's house, who knows what could come up in regards to being able to actually close that person. So, later in my career, it got to the point where I didn't really want to do much of really anything on that call except set that appointment, and being very direct. Hey, Mrs. Jones, this was my favorite line from my appointment setting script. And there's so many different scripts, you guys, that you can use, that you can find. You got to really make it your own. But my favorite line, whenever I got pushback when I'm trying to set that appointment, hey, Mrs. Jones, I'm going to be in your area, or hey, Mrs. Jones, I'm going to be just down the street from you, actually around this time anyways. Does 10 a.m. or 2 p.m. work better for you? And just giving them that A/B option. I'm not asking Mrs. Jones, hey, what does Friday look like for you? Do you think I could stop by on Friday? Would that be okay? Like, that is like, nope, no, do not come over. Like, that's the answer to that type of open-ended question. If you really just want to set that appointment, in my opinion, it's got to be like an A/B. Hey, Friday at 10 a.m. or 2 p.m. And sometimes, again, if the objection to that was something truly like, well, I'm going to be out of town Friday, Glenn. Okay, at that point, I'm a little more fluid with what I'm trying to do, but most of these seniors, especially if we're talking about the older group, 70 plus, they're home. They're home all day, every day. They're not going anywhere. They've got nowhere to go. Not trying to be rude or mean. I'm just telling you the facts that I've seen personally is that they're home, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because I use the exact same scripting when it comes to scheduling appointments when I would go out to
Yeah.
appointments. It would
Yeah.
always be, I'm going to be out in your area. And I remember when I learned this script in particular, the way it was kind of jammed into my head was like, I don't care how many times you have to say it. I'm going to be out in your area. Say it multiple times. Like if
Right.
you get kickback, it's like, well, just like Glenn said, it's like, well, it's really no trouble for me. I'm actually going to be out that way anyway, because like I said, I'm going to be out in your area. Like you just keep like reiterating it. I had
Yes.
I had calls sometimes where I would say it 4 or 5 times. Getting pushback. I'd be like, well, the fact of the matter is I'm going to be out in your area, like, and so often we would get the appointment scheduled because I'm going to be out in their area. So say it multiple times, circle it back around. If you have to overcome an objection, overcome the objection, and then cap it off with, I'm going to be out in your freaking area, Mr. Jones,
Yes.
and that's the real point you want to really hammer in with them is like the convenience factor, right? I'm going to be there. And off and I get agents ask all the time, what if I'm not going to be out there? Neither was I.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Yeah, it
I'm
could be your first appointment. Maybe you're trying to set that first appointment, and then maybe you will be in that
yeah,
area, right?
yeah.
Like
Like
later.
be like I wasn't planning to 5 minutes ago, but now I'm going to be
Yeah,
in the
now I will be.
area.
Yeah.
Like so they don't need to know that. The other thing is I think what I've always found really important with scheduling appointments is you want to sound busy, right? So like I think leaving it too open-ended, like Glenn said, from the standpoint of like, I got all week open.
Yeah.
When are you gonna be free, Mrs.
Anytime. Yeah.
Be like, I'm available Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. You're like, and the client's like, oh, this poor schmuck has nothing going on. I'm the only person that's entertaining meeting with them. Maybe I should rethink this. Click, right? So
Right.
make yourself sound busy. Make yourself sound incredibly busy. Be like, sometimes if you hit the client with what about Friday at 11? Well, I might not be home Friday at 11. But sometimes if they're actually really interested, they'll throw back at you, when are you going to be here again? That's a question you kind of get a lot. I'm like, well, it kind of depends on the day, that kind of thing. And, they might go, well, what about Thursday? My Thursday is completely wide open. I have nothing, let's say, hypothetically. I'm going to go, Thursday's kind of packed, but I do have a 10:30, and you want to sound busy. Perception is reality,
So
especially with this stuff.
this reminds me of an old door knocking trick. Okay, so this is like a bonus in this video. We should already be done with this video, but I'm gonna
Yeah,
give you
we
guys a
should.
bone because Christian just triggered something for me. So this used to be how this was something I was taught, and I thought it was insane when I got taught this, but it was unbelievable how much this worked. So cold door knock. Again, that I did that for years. You go up, and I watched my trainer at the time do it, and he'd go up, he'd knock on the door, and then he would take about 3 or 4 or 5 steps, and then he'd turn around, and he had a clipboard, and he's just writing on his clipboard. So they open the door, and the first thing that they see is some dude with his back to the door And then he makes them say the first, so he's not even paying attention. It's like, oh, hello. It's like, oh, hey, yeah. But again, it's the perception of, oh, this dude's looks like he's really busy. Like, what's going on here? It's a thing. It really is a thing. And appointment setting is very much so. It works the same way.
That is awesome. I really want to I want to go up and down my neighborhood now and try that.
I'm telling you, it's crazy how well it works. You get a clipboard, some papers, you just fluff your papers around, act like you're crazy, like, what's going on? And they get hooked. Like, it's this thing, it's a psychology thing where it's like, what's going on? What's this guy doing? One other thing I'll mention too, a line that I used a ton that worked. And most agents, if they heard this, would be like, that's stupid. I would never say that. Mrs. Jones, this will just take 5 minutes. It'll take 5 minutes. Just let me, I'll stop by. I'm going to be down the street anyways. 5 minutes. I'll get this information to you, and then, we'll be good to go. And a lot of agents will push back on that and be like, well, the appointment takes at least an hour. Why would I tell them 5 minutes if it takes an hour? I can't tell you how many times I told someone it was going to take 5 minutes, and I got to the house and I got in the door, and then the appointment takes 90 minutes and it didn't matter at all, right? It was just a way of getting in the door,
I did something similar, right? I actually, when Wolf of Wall Street first came out, I took inspiration from that and I started working something into my scripting. It was like the first time I saw it. I don't remember what year that movie came out.
Love it.
2013, 14, something like that.
Yeah.
And there's a line in it where he goes, someone's buying stock, and it's like a closing line. So he goes, something, I don't remember word for word what he says, but he says something on the lines of, the only regret you'll have is that you didn't buy more, right?
Yeah.
So I kind of took that into my appointment, and I was like, and I would say 15 minutes instead of 5. I think you could probably use it for either, but
sure.
I would say, they'd be like, how long is it going to take? I'd be like, well, Mrs. Jones, obviously I said earlier not to use Mrs. Jones. I'd be like, well, Dorothy, usually these take about 15 minutes to kind of determine if I can be of any help. But if I do stay longer, it'll be because you want me to. And I started using that, and that helped me a lot, I
like that line a lot.
Booking the appointment. And that was like a go-to for me for years when I was going on house appointments. And I took it really far.
It's kind of a power shift, right? You're basically telling them, like, you can kick me out anytime. Like, if I stay longer than this time, it's because you want me to stay. So I like that line a lot. Guys, we are at day 8 of our 17-day mini course on how to succeed with buying insurance leads. If you are not sure what's going on, check out the previous 7-day videos. They will be hosted on Christian Brindle's YouTube channel. You'll be able to find those. We'll also make sure we've got them all over the place on social media. So you'll be able to find all 17 of these mini course videos as we continue to generate these and get these out to you guys.
What's up, guys? Welcome to day 9 of our mini course of how to successfully buy insurance leads. And what I mean by that is how to actually have an ROI that is mind-blowing at the end of the conversation, at the end of the experience. This is day 9, and we're going to be talking about virtual assistants and how they can help you with having a successful ROI with buying insurance leads. So there is nobody I know who's more of a VA expert than Mr. Glen Shelton, who's on this video with me. Glen, as the unofficial VA expert and VA daddy, what do the people need to know about VAs?
I wouldn't say it's unofficial. I am the official expert in virtual assistants. Guys, if you don't know who I am, or you don't know who Lead Heroes or Hire Heroes is, maybe this is the first time you've ever watched a video by Christian or myself. I started a company almost 10 years ago based out of the Philippines, where we hire, train, recruit, and manage virtual assistants for you, so you don't have to do any of that. You don't have to worry about finding them, training them, hiring them, paying them, managing them. All of that's done for you through Lead Heroes and Hire Heroes. The reason that this fits so well with how to succeed with buying insurance leads is managing your leads can sometimes be too much work, I guess, to a point where maybe you're missing out on opportunities because you're so busy on the sales side, right? You're so busy trying to run appointments, staying in front of your prospects. A virtual assistant can get plugged into this process and help manage the entire lead side of the business for you. They can help manage your CRM, which we talked about on day 3. They can help with appointment setting, which we talked about on day 8. They can help with the dialer, right? Which we talked about on day 4. And there will probably be, future videos in this mini course that we're going to talk about where you don't necessarily have to do it yourself. You don't have to be alone. The analogy that I love to give is if you go to a doctor's office, do you walk into the doctor's office and the doctor's sitting behind the reception table and saying, hey, Christian, welcome in, and the doctor's checking you? You know how scary that would be? I would be terrified if I walked in.
It's like
I walked,
empty. There's
yeah,
no one there.
There's no nurse, right? So typically, right, there's a receptionist. The receptionist hands you off to a nurse. The nurse does like the pre-qualification, and then you talk to the doctor.
Yeah.
And it's a limited, right? The doctor's getting to the meat of it, right? They're diagnosing you. They're giving you a prescription or a treatment. And honestly, I think it's such a great analogy for how you can approach insurance leads and your insurance agency or being an independent agent, your business. You can have a virtual assistant that can be that receptionist. You can have a virtual assistant that can be that nurse that does the pre-qualifications on your behalf. That saves you an incredible amount of time and allows you to, again, get to a higher ROI. If you're spending, like I was originally as an agent, if you're spending half your week doing administrative work, then think about how much more money you would be able to generate if you spent your entire week selling and you offloaded all of that administrative work onto someone else. That's really the core of this entire concept with virtual assistants. Christian, being that you are now co-owner of a virtual assistant company, Hire Heroes, and you've been able to work with virtual assistants very closely for years now, even before we started working together, you were already working with some of our virtual assistants. What has been your experience as a consumer of a virtual assistant?
Yeah, I think a virtual assistant does such a great job, as you said, of taking a lot of those little tiny aspects of things that doesn't need to be handled by you off of your plate, and so you can focus more on the things that is harder to replace, harder to replicate, that you bring to the table, that is a better use of your time. Our experience has been phenomenal. That's ultimately why we decided to move forward and merge with Hire Heroes and Lead Heroes. And, now we work even closer and even more intimately with a multitude of different virtual assistants. And, they're a super integral part now of our agency, of what we're doing with, our up and coming CRM, shameless plug. There's so many things that virtual assistants are doing in terms of all of our different businesses and brands and everything like that. And they're integral. They're an integral part of kind of what we're doing. And ultimately, the end of the day, guys, is when I think about virtual assistants, it's using your time more wisely. Other things need to get done, and they will get done, but you don't have to do everything. Again, you don't have to be the doctor checking the person in.
Right.
You're like, all right, now come on back.
Come on. Let's get you away, Christian. Come here.
Like you don't have to be that person. And truthfully, guys, like your clients probably look at you like you're a struggling business owner if you are operating that way.
100%.
Truthfully. I didn't realize this when I was a new agent and I was starting out in the early years, but like I remember about a year ago I spoke with one of my clients and they're like, "You're doing really well now," because they think that because they can't get me on the phone very easily. That's the perception. So I'm talking to them, and they're like, we remember when you just started and you were struggling, you were all alone. And I was like, that was their perception. And I was
Yeah.
surprised for them to actually, say that. But that is the perception. And people like to do business with people that are doing well oftentimes.
There's a mindset, and this will kind of be the last thing I'll mention, you guys. The mindset of is that spending money on a virtual assistant is an additional expense, and that there is no like direct ROI. You buy an insurance lead and you make a sale from that insurance lead. It's a very quick ROI in that cycle, right? You spend the money, you make the sale, you get it back, you can do it again. You don't necessarily see that with a virtual assistant because they're not doing the actual sales, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if they are able to free up your time and allow you to focus more on the sales, that's where the real big ROI comes from. And now you're making even more money. So I want to make sure too, we're going to drop a link below. We did a webinar recently talking about the top 10 tasks that a virtual assistant can help you with in your agency today. Check out that link. Go ahead, watch the replay. That's over an hour long, talking about the top 10 tasks that a virtual assistant can help you with today. I think it was a kind of a mind-opening experience for a lot of agents who didn't know what a virtual assistant could do or not do to help them. So that being said, you guys, day 9 of our 17-day mini course, How to Succeed with Buying Insurance Leads, which means getting that big fat ROI.
Welcome back, everybody, to day 10 of our 17 video mini course series of how to successfully buy insurance leads and have great success with the leads. Huge. Guys, we're talking about activity levels today. What kind of activity levels are necessary in order to be successful with these types of leads? Guys, I want you to have the mentality that your activity level, maybe it's a here right now. I want it to go up to here, right? Like we want to get every single drop out of these leads that you possibly can. We're going to be squeezing them. You ever have like a sponge, and you're squeezing it. You're just.
I was gonna say orange.
Squeezing.
I was gonna say sponge works too, though.
Squeeze a sponge.
It's the same. You squeeze it all. I don't
know. Yeah. Let's say you're making orange juice. And you're squeezing the orange, and you don't want to leave any drops left.
You're cleaning the floor. You want to get all that cleaning solution out of your sponge. What is going on? We're losing our minds on day 10, you guys.
Talk to the people about activity levels.
So my mind immediately goes to, I'm a bit of a sports freak. I think Christian is too. We talk about basketball all the time. And I think about from a coaching perspective, what would I say to my players is you can't control how the game goes in the sense of what that final score might look like.
Mm-hmm.
You might be outmatched. You may have never had a chance to begin with, but what you can control is your activity level in that game. How much you're hustling. Are you running up and down the court? Are you chasing every ball? Are you playing defense on every play? Your activity level is a controllable that you are 110% in control of. If you run and how that relates to the insurance leads, if you run an appointment and no one's home, you can't control that, right?
Mm-mm.
Let's say,
No.
you try calling a lead, they don't answer, right? You can't control that. But what you can control is how many appointments are you going to try running that day?
Right.
How many calls are you going to try to make that day? And this is where I think a lot of agents will either have massive success or we'll see them fail out of the industry. And especially if you're a new agent. If you're a new agent, you have to just have insane activity level because you might not really understand what you're doing yet. You might run into objections that you just thought you couldn't get around, but if you were a veteran agent, you could have easily got through it. I think of the other piece of this that I think of, I see agents who are not great salespeople who make an incredible amount of money. They crush it in this industry. And if you saw them trying to sell, you'd be like, oh my gosh, this is horrific. But they outsell so many agents, and you're
Yeah.
thinking to yourself, you're like, how is this happening? How is this agent, who is not a good salesperson, selling more policies than me? And I'm an incredible salesperson. And it's exactly this. It's activity level. If you're closing 50% of your appointments and the other agent's only closing 20%, I'm running 3 appointments a day. They're running 15 appointments a day. Who's going to make more money at the end of this day? I'll tell you what, the person who's running 15 appointments a day, they're going to make a lot more money. They're going to have a bigger ROI, and they're going to have more success when they're buying insurance leads,
Yeah.
right?
100%. 100%. The great Jim Rohn said one time, if anybody knows Jim Rohn, comment on this video if you're watching on YouTube. But the great Jim Rohn said one time when it came to prospecting that, let's say you have a guy that talks to 10 people and he closes 2 out of 10. Okay. There's another guy that only closes 1 out of 10, but he talks to 30 people and he closes 3. The guy with the lower closing percentage won because he made more contacts, he had more activity, right? And that's a great way to look at it, right? Oftentimes the activity level determines your level of success, right? In my cold calling days, Glenn as well, when he was making cold calls, we were making hundreds of phone calls a day, my friends.
Yes.
Hundreds. There were days I made 300-400 phone calls in a day. I think a couple of days I might have hit 500. I started at I tried this thing where I was calling I was living on the East Coast for a little while. I was calling different time zones and things like that so I could work later and things like that, working 2 hours later. Like I was working 14-hour days, and there was a couple of days I hit 500 calls. Not saying you necessarily have to do that necessarily, but the reason why that was able to work for me was my activity level was so spectacular. And I think activity level is something you need to wrap your mind around. And so the way this relates to leads, and we'll kind of close this puppy out. How many times are you calling your leads? I hear this all the time from agents.
Yes.
Couldn't get anybody on the phone. How many times did you call? 0.5. I'm like, 0.5? What? But does that mean you didn't finish all the way through? Well, then
no, it means they got 10 leads and they made 5 phone calls. That is point 0.5, and that happens every single day. I can see you, I can hear you from here. You're only making 5 phone calls out of 10 leads.
What I recommend to agents is activity level should be making multiple phone calls to each lead. You should be making multiple phone calls a day, calling different times of the day, call in the morning, call in the evening, call for multiple days in a row. Hit these leads, hit them, because the average sales contact that actually results in a sale is going to be made. Studies have shown on average the 6th contact. So if you're calling one time through and calling it a day, your activity level is not where it needs to be successful with leads.
This is going to be my final thoughts, you guys. I believe that activity level trumps all. It trumps the skill of the agent. It trumps the quality of the lead. It trumps the commission levels. It trumps the car you're driving. It trumps the software you're using. It trumps everything. And I've seen it over and 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 over. Activity level is literally one of the biggest determining factors in your success as an agent, your success buying insurance leads. Again, today is day 10 of our 17-day mini course, How to Succeed Buying Insurance Leads. Welcome back, you guys, to day 11 on our 17-day mini course, How to Succeed When Buying Insurance Leads. I'm Glen Shelton. This is my business owner partner, Christian Brindle. Together, we are going through 17 different ways to help you succeed with buying insurance leads. What does that mean? That means getting a big fat ROI. You're spending the money and you're getting even more back when you see the commissions come through. That being said, today we're talking about objection handling, a key part in the sales process. When you get to that point with a prospect where you went through your presentation, so again, we're going through, you buy the lead, you prep for it, you call them, you're either on the phone pitching them or you got an in-person appointment, and then an objection comes up. Mrs. Jones says, I'm going to need to think about it, Christian. Or maybe she says, I don't think I can afford this. Or maybe she says, I have another agent that I want to talk to. The list goes on and on and on and on and on. That being said, Christian, take it away with objection handling. Tell the people how you would handle an objection, or maybe there's a specific objection that's really common that we should talk about. What do you think?
Yeah, I think this is what separates the men from the boys when it comes to being an agent, right? Like, can you handle an objection? So what you need to have the mentality about is when an objection presents itself and it comes out, you need to be quick about it. There's so many times I see an agent where they get hit with an objection and they're just they need time to process, right? It just needs to, they're quiet for a second. The person then sees the weakness. It's like a shark smelling blood in the water, if you will, and they take control of the situation and they just push you off the phone. I've seen it happen time and time again.
Sure.
So you need to be quick about it. You need to be Matumbo.
Ooh, I like it.
No. That's you needs to be your mentality. So how do you handle objections, right? So the one that we get constantly in our office to this day, and I have to coach agents through internally, is I already have an agent. That's one we get a lot. I already have an agent, or I'm happy with my agent. That's a really, really difficult one, right? Because, and I'm not saying you're always going to be able to overcome the objection, but what I would recommend is you try every single time. You try to get, my philosophy has always been get 3 no's. Get 3 no's. So keep overcoming until you get 3 no's before you call it quits. So many people just get one objection and they hanging up the phone. I saw an agent one time. This is a story for another day. He's on a sales call. He gets one objection. He doesn't know what to say. He panics and goes, hangs up. Don't do that, don't do that shit. So how would I overcome that specific objection, right? What I would hit them with is I would say, what I used to do in the past is I would try to bash their agent. Don't do that. That's not cool. I really would. I'd be like,
well, I don't. So, well, and I think there's a fine line between bashing the other agent and maybe just asking some simple questions like, well, when was the last time you talked to your agent?
Yes. I think that's different. That's different for me. What I was doing back in the day, and I'm sure some of you are doing now.
There's a lot of this going on.
And I've learned this, guys. It doesn't help you. It actually makes you look worse to the client.
Yes.
And so what I was doing back in the day, though, is I'd be like, who's your agent? Patrick Thomas. Oh, heard of that guy. Heard he's not very good. You don't want to work with that guy.
Right.
It'd be like, oh, you're working with this agency? Oh, they are, as uncompliant as any agency I've ever seen in the Medicare industry. They break all kinds of rules. They're crooks. Don't do that kind of stuff. Right. But you can look for holes, right?
Right.
You can look for holes. So like Glenn said, when's the last time you actually spoke to Patrick Thomas? Let's say that's your agent. Be like, yeah, I've heard of Patrick, When's the last time you talked to Patrick? Oh, it's been 2 years. Asking questions is a big one. The biggest objection that we would always, when we see that objection, the biggest response that we would hit back with that would help with the situation is pitching the second opinion and trying to make us look really good. So the response to me would be, you know what, Mrs. Jones, I totally understand, because remember what we said a few days ago, stay in agreement. You know what, Mrs. Jones, I totally understand, and that makes total sense to me. However, one thing you would not believe how often we do is we'll do second opinions for people, even when they feel like they're in the best spot possible. And more often than not, there's a better plan out there that people weren't even aware of
Yep.
that better fits their needs, better fits their preferences, right? It might be a better rate if it's a Medicare supplement. If it's a Medicare Advantage plan, they might have additional benefits that they didn't even know they qualified for. And so what we find is there's very little there's very little risk in us doing a second opinion. There's one of two things that can happen. Number one, we either confirm you're on the best plan possible and you can sleep better at night knowing that you're on the best thing. The second thing
Right.
is we can find you a better plan. And
Yeah.
that is essentially how I train agents to overcome that specific objection. And so you object it. You try to get to that, and so you overcame your first no. You try to get to three no's. And that's my art form when it
Let
comes
me
to doing that.
let me give you a counterpoint that I've heard a lot of. True or false? Does a top level sales agent remove objections before they can come up?
I think it's possible. I think my opinion is there's so many different objections that
Right.
could come up that it'll be
Can't remove them all.
it'll be a very lengthy phone call if you're trying to do that, right? Like
Yeah.
it's a very long script, it's a very
Yeah.
long intro.
You're
I'm
going through every object. You've got a list. You're just like, nope,
right.
nope. Hey, check that one. Check that one off.
Like my sales process is so much more about getting to the nitty gritty.
Yeah.
And because I like to play the volume game, I don't want to spend a bunch of time on the phone with somebody that I can't help. And
100%.
and if I'm spending so much time like pre-objecting objections that haven't even come up yet, I feel like I'm wasting a lot of my time personally. Um, so I would rather take them as they come because if there's 10 common objections that I get, right? I like my plan, I like my agent, I'm not interested, I need to talk to my wife. Like let's say there's 10, right, that you see commonly. You're probably going to get one or two of those, and you don't
Yeah.
know which one or two it's going to be. It's like
Right.
a mystery box. You don't know what's coming out of the mystery box. Yeah, so that would be my thought on that.
I think there's some common objections like cost, right? That's a huge one that comes up where you could reference in your presentation that, hey, as an insurance broker, Mrs. Jones, I can always come up with a affordable solution, and then if she mentions that after the presentation or after you're talking, and she's like, I don't think I'll be able to afford this, being able to have that response and say, remember, Mrs. Jones, I'm an insurance broker. I work with several different carriers. I'm confident I can find you an affordable solution.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get more into, what is affordable for you. The objection that I wanted to talk about, though, that I think is super common, especially if you're calling a lead on the phone, I'm not interested, Christian. I don't want to talk to you. I'm not interested. And that seems like a brick wall, I think, for a lot of agents. Just
Mm-hmm.
boom, like they can't get through that one. And there is some stuff I think that can be said. I'm not saying you're going to get through every single one of these, but sometimes there is a couple of quick rebuttals where you can get around it and keep the conversation going. I mentioned this on the day 7 tonality video. We were talking about sometimes it's just keeping them on the phone.
Yeah.
And objection handling, again, that's kind of that same situation where sometimes you just have to make it through that one objection. If you can get through the one objection, you're at the finish line, you get the application, they're a client. And not interested is a big one because it's like they don't want to talk to you, they don't care what this is about. But you kind of mentioned it with your response, but my go-to was always, well, hey, what if I could save you money? I'm not trying to take money away from you. What if I could save you money on your existing plan? If you're calling
Mm-hmm.
a Medicare supplement lead, hey, Mrs. Jones, I understand you're not interested. It looks like, based on what I'm seeing here, you've been on Medicare for 5 years already, and you might be overpaying for your current benefits. I might be able to find a plan that is exactly the same, offers all the same benefits that you have now, but it's just at a lower cost,
Yeah.
and you get to save money. That might take someone from, I'm not interested, I don't care what you have to say, I don't want to talk to you, to, okay, I'll give you 2 more minutes. Let's see where this goes.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So sometimes it really is that simple.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I mean, one situation that pops into mind, if you guys did go watch the video of me dialing Lead Hero leads myself, if any of you haven't watched that video, I highly recommend you go watch it. But there's an instance where I called a guy, and that's exactly the way he hit me with it right up the bat. He goes, "I'm not interested. I've already talked to a couple different agencies, and they've showed me everything." And the way he's talking, I could very this is a T65 guy, right? He's making Medicare decisions for the first time. And the way he was talking, I could very much get the sense that he had been talked to heavily about Medicare supplements, but he didn't mention anything about Medicare Advantage. So my rebuttal immediately was, "Did they talk to you about Medicare Advantage? What was your thought on that?" And I found the chink in the armor because
Yep.
this guy shut me down within 15, 20 seconds with that. The phone call ended up being 10 minutes. I think we wrote the app too, I'm pretty sure, when Celeste followed up with it.
Yeah.
But like that's a great example of that too, right? Is like, asking those questions. So Glenn asked the question, like, what if I could save you money? Like, from what I can see right here, based on
Yep.
what you're paying, I do have better rates available in your area for the exact same coverage. I don't know if I mean, would that be something we could have a very brief conversation about? For mine, in that situation, it was, did they talk to you about Medicare Advantage? What about Medicare Advantage? What was your thought on that? What's your opinion on Medicare Advantage, right? Like,
Yep.
and trying to just kind of crowbar something in before they completely just bulldoze you.
Guys, there is a massive guide on the Lead Heroes website, Insurance Agent's Guide to Handling Objections. We get into all sorts of different objections. We get quotes from other agents on different rebuttals that they use to get around objections, similar to what Christian and I just went through. I'm going to make sure that this is linked with this video so you can check it out. It is, again, leadheroes.com, Insurance Agent's Guide to Handling Objections. It's worth your time to check it out. That being said, today is day 11 on our 17-day mini course, How to Succeed Buying Insurance Leads. All of our
What's up, guys? Welcome to day 12 of our mini course about how to successfully buy leads. And when I say how to successfully buy them, how do you successfully profit from them?
follow-up. The
Follow-up.
fortune's in the follow-up. That's what we're talking about, you guys.
Today, we're talking about follow-up and how can you get the most out of your leads through follow-up. They say the gold is in the follow-up. Glenn,
Yes.
what do the people need to know about following up with their leads? Because most of them aren't doing it, is what I hear. Little birdie told me.
They're not. I'm thinking back to some of these previous videos we've done talking about activity level, talking about CRM, talking about the dialer could potentially be, again, a piece of your follow-up. I said in the activity level video that it's the number one thing that is the difference between being successful and failure, whether that's buying leads or your insurance career in general. We have a huge failure rate here in the industry. And I think activity level is a big part of that. But activity level and follow-up, they really go hand in hand in my. It is very much so two wings of the same bird. I think that follow-up is so critical with a lead. It really makes the difference most of the time between being profitable or not being profitable. And I want to talk about some statistics that I've personally seen at Lead Heroes with real insurance clients that we're working with. When I'm talking to someone, and if they tell me that they're trying to just do one call closes, which you might think that's crazy, but there are agencies and agents out there who refuse to talk to someone more than one time. There are agents and agencies out there that have this belief that I'm either going to sell this person when I talk to them the first time, or I will never talk to them again. And they believe that that's how they make the most money and they're most efficient, by operating under that idea. I can't tell you how wrong that is, though.
Yeah.
From what I've seen statistically, when someone talks to someone the first time, they're probably only going to have about a 5% close rate.
Yep.
3 to 5% is what I would tell you if you plan on just talking to someone one time. If you talk to someone 5 to 10 times potentially, right? And maybe it's only 2 or 3 times, maybe it is 5 to 10 times. It just depends on the prospect. Your closing percentage skyrockets from 3 to 5%. Now you're up to 15 to 20%. It is a huge increase. Most people don't want to transact business on that first phone call. They might not know you yet. It might be a bit of a trust building process. Or maybe there's something that needs to be done before the sale can actually happen. Oh, yes, we want this, but my husband's not here. Oh, I would love to do this, but I don't get paid until next month. And once I get paid, then I can sign up for this final expense policy. There can be all sorts of reasons why you can't transact business on that very first phone call. The follow-up is literally going to generate you 3 to 4 times, 5 times, maybe even more sales. And it's been proven over and over and over again. You don't have to take my word for it.
Mm-hmm.
Do your own research if you don't believe me. It's been proven 100 times over that if you follow up consistently, and this could be, again, automated follow-up, maybe you're using a CRM that's sending out drip marketing, right? Drip emails, drip text messages. Maybe you have a virtual assistant that's doing follow-up on your behalf. You already tried calling them 5 times. You're done. You hand it off to a virtual assistant and they will keep following up with that person until that person says they are interested in talking to you again. And then they hand it back to you. There's so many ways of doing follow-up. That being said, Christian, talk to me about your follow-up process or what you would recommend to an agency owner or to a Medicare agent or a final expense agent when it comes to follow-up.
I think for me, when I was selling actively full time, there were so many times where by me following up, it was something that was the only thing for certain periods of time that would bring in business, just like by continuously following up when things were a little slow, when things were a little dry, maybe in the off season outside of AEP. And I got down to a science with it, right? So as many of you guys probably do, I used an online calendar. Highly recommend using an online calendar. To this day, I live by my calendar. I'm a bit of a slave to my calendar. If there's something on my calendar,
Is.
I'm going to be there for it. Like, I'm not late to things. I'm going to be there for it. Like, I'm not going to, forget about it. Like, I go by my calendar, exclusively throughout the day. It's my guide. When I start the day, I really usually don't have any clue what I'm going to be doing that day. My calendar takes me where I need to go. And that was the way it was back then too. It's just I had a lot less on my calendar because I was, not as busy as I am today. But I would schedule my follow-ups for certain days on the calendar. So if I need to follow up with somebody next week, it goes on the calendar for next week as a reminder. If I need to follow up with somebody in 6 months, right? Maybe I need to follow up with somebody for a year. I would try to follow up with anybody I could that gave me the time of day. Now, I do think there is such a thing as, I think there's a balance with this because some people will waste your time. And this happened to me early on as an agent, but I think that's few and far between. I think for the most part, following up has 9 out of 10 times good results. Again, it kind of goes together with the conversation we had about activity. But following up, guys, like there were so many people in my career where maybe they were working when they were turning 65, but we had a great conversation. And I would say, hey, would it be all right if I followed up with you in a year and see if anything's changed with your work situation? I'd call them back in a year. Nothing's changed. I'd do the same thing. I'd call them back next year. I'm spending very little time on this, by the way. It's not like I'm investing a ton of time. I'm just, once a year making these calls. I get back with them and they're finally ready to retire. They remember me. They're impressed. I've been checking in once a year and boom, I get 2 clients, right? Very little time investment on my end. So sometimes follow-up can even be playing that long game, right? Because future you will thank past you for taking the extra 2 minutes to put that follow-up in your calendar. And that's really all it takes.
Yeah, I'm thinking when it comes to agents that I've worked with, and again, if an agent gets a hold of me and they're not having success with insurance leads that they bought from Lead Heroes, my very first question to that agent is, how many times did you try calling the leads? How many times did you try following up, right? I mean, that's essentially what the question is. And if you're not tracking your follow-up and you can't answer that question, I immediately know that you're not doing follow-up. Now, is it possible that there's an agent that's hammering the follow-up and they're not organized? That's possible, but typically if you are doing true follow-up, you have some sort of trackability, some sort of stats. The agents who impress me with that, where I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, okay, I know what's going on now, and now I have a better idea of how I can help you. Those are the agents that are telling me, hey, I've tried calling this lead 7 times. All these other leads I've tried calling 6 times already. This is what I've seen. You know, this many said no. This many people said call me back. That's the type of follow-up that makes a huge difference in your success with buying insurance leads.
Yep.
Guys, if you have missed any of these videos, you can find them on Christian Brindle's YouTube channel. Excuse me. We're already in the YouTube video. Day 1 through 11, you can see all these gold nuggets that Christian and I have shared on how you can be successful when buying insurance leads. It can be intimidating, spending money on marketing and not sure what your ROI will be, how quickly you'll get that back. This mini course has been designed to give you the best possible chance at that big fat ROI. Welcome back, everybody, to day 13. That's right, day 13 of our 17-day mini course, How to Succeed Buying Insurance Leads. We have covered a variety of topics with this mini course. And again, the reason for it, we have a limited time offer for you guys, $17 leads until May 27th. For final expense, Medicare supplement, and turning 65, all you have to do is purchase a minimum order of 30. So $510 gets you 30 attempts at someone purchasing Medicare supplement insurance, final expense insurance, or maybe they're signing up for the first time, getting that true up money, baby. We all love that with turning 65. Today's topic, though, is near and dear to my heart. This is something, if you watch Taco Tuesday, we've talked a lot about cross-selling. Cross-selling. If you're a new agent, Christian, and you didn't know what cross-selling was, and you heard cross-selling for the first time, how would you explain it to a new agent?
Yeah. So, guys, cross-selling is when you're selling additional products with your primary product. You know, you're selling, let's say you're selling a Medicare Advantage plan or a Medicare supplement plan. Maybe you're coming back later and selling final expense or some other type of life insurance. Maybe you're selling short-term care, long-term care. Maybe you're selling dental, vision, hearing, hospital indemnities on your Medicare Advantage business, ACA business too. You're just kind of attaching other products where there might be exposure for the client. Cancer plans, right?
Great one.
There's so many different kind of ancillary products, as we like to call them, that is not really designed to be an insurance product completely on its own, right? It's not going to be able to provide someone's healthcare by itself. That would be my definition of an ancillary product when it comes to the health space, but it's designed to pair with a primary product. So a primary product's an Advantage plan. A primary product's a supplement plan. A primary product's an ACA plan.
Life insurance.
Yeah, life insurance. And you're pairing these other products to it to kind of fill in some of the holes or some of the areas of weakness that the product might leave behind.
All right, that's it. Cross-selling, you guys. Thanks for watching. No, just kidding. So this one is super important to me because, again, as a new agent, my perspective on cross-selling, and I think a lot of agents have this perspective. I don't think it was just me. Maybe I'm crazy, but my perspective is I had this fear that if I bring up anything else, if I'm there for a life insurance appointment and if I bring up anything else, I had this fear that I was going to lose that original reason why I was there, that it would convolute things, that it would distract the prospect from the presentation. And I couldn't have been more wrong. And I got much, much better about this down the road, especially once I did start to include Medicare into my bag of options when I'm presenting to a senior. But cross-selling has this huge opportunity because what I eventually realized is if I don't sell them this other policy, someone else will. And to really drive this point home that I started doing and you guys can start doing as well, ask them for other policies that they might have. Oh, hey, Mrs. Jones, by the way, I also offer health products, cancer, critical illness, dental, vision, hearing. Do you have anything like that right now? And once you bring that up, they're either going to say no, that they don't have it, and maybe they have no interest, right? Maybe they're like, no, I don't want that. Stop talking about that. But not majority of the time, there is some level of interest, or they already have an ancillary product and they'll want to talk to you about it. Oh, you know what? I think I did buy a cancer plan. Let me see if I can find that paperwork. And it just opens up the door for a lot of different opportunities. You can get more policies in that household. Again, the whole point of this mini course is how to succeed at buying insurance leads, which means how do you get an ROI? Cross-selling is like the definition of ROI, in my opinion. You already sold the one policy, and if you can get two policies in the same household, kaboom, right? I mean, that's just absolute gold, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything that you said, right? There's so many benefits, so many benefits. I actually was just doing a training, I think yesterday, for some of the team members in the office about this because we're implementing some new cross-selling, I guess strategies into our approach with our clients internally and our new prospects that come in the door. And what I was telling them was the benefits, kind of like what Glenn was saying was, number one, obviously you make more revenue right off of that client, so you make more money per house. But number two, they're covered better. You're providing them a service. Number three, lots of these people actually have a desire for some of these other products, and they will buy it without you. And oftentimes they will not necessarily even know that you offer it if you don't tell them you do.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
That's number three. And number four, the stickiness, the retention, right, is so high, right? It's so much easier to retain a client when you have 3, 4, maybe even 5 products in the house with that person. And that's such a huge thing, right? It just makes sense. You're really shooting yourself in the foot to not cross sell. So when you're working leads, how does this kind of circle back to the lead conversation, right?
Yes.
By doing all this, you're benefiting your clients, you're increasing your retention, and you're also increasing your profitability on the leads, right? This whole course is about how to have massive, big, fat, honking profit. Huge product. Huge. Cross-selling's going to get you there, guys. It's going to help you. And by bringing up these ancillary products, like I couldn't tell you how many times I would work leads in my days as just being a selling agent that I couldn't get anywhere with the primary product. I would bring up an ancillary product and I'd get it. And then I'd get back in the door later. Yeah. So I got something off of the lead, number one. Number two, they're in my book of business, so I can call them later. I don't need permission to contact.
Yep.
Because they're my client, right?
Yeah.
So I could check back later on their SUP. Their rates go up 12% the next year. I can check back on their Medicare Advantage. Let's say their plan dropped the biggest hospital system in the area. They're scrambling, right? Like they're in my book of business. There's just, we could do an hour on this.
Yeah.
But ultimately, guys, those are the benefits of cross-selling in my mind to kind of close out this video, this piece of the mini course of how to be successful with insurance leads, you guys. We'll see you guys next time on the next one. We have just a few more to go, so keep an eye out. We're bringing them out every day for a 17-day mini course.
Guys, welcome to day 14. We're going to get into today's topic, retention. How can you retain the client? So we try to really strategically walk you guys through how to be successful with insurance leads, talking initially about lead buying prep, getting a CRM, what's your budget, working our way through some of the sales process, scripting, activity level, appointment setting, objection handling. Now we're kind of getting to the back end sales process. That commission's great when you get it. When that hits the bank account, boom, it's awesome. The problem is if the client goes away, if you lose that client, especially in that first, 9 to 12 months, you might be looking at a chargeback. You might have to actually stroke a check to the carrier and say, sorry, I thought they were going to stay with me, but they chose someone else. They changed their mind. You don't want that. You want a client that's going to be with you forever. You want sticky retention. Someone who is not only going to stay with you forever, but they're going to refer their friends and family as well. Christian, how do you do it? You've had incredible retention at your agency. Part of the reason why I was so excited to partner with you, I know very well firsthand how low retention can go. I've seen some agencies tell me numbers that like make me want to gouge my eyes out, where I'm like, tell me that's not real. You can't possibly be losing that many clients. Christian has an incredible retention rate, over 90%. Some years, I think he's at probably 96, 98%. I mean, just incredible retention. Christian, how have you done it? And how can other agents do what you do?
Yeah, so I think for us, it's been an ever-growing ecosystem of support. We put such an emphasis on the client support and the client service, right? So, and everybody's like, oh, a big deal. I do that too. But do you? Right? Like the support is enormous, but it's not just the support. And I'll give you guys just a little bit more detail on that in a second, but it's also how many times are you touching your clients throughout the year? I'm not saying we're perfect at it necessarily. There are agencies that probably touch their clients even more than we do, but it's been very effective for us, right? And so we have essentially a build out right now where when our clients call, they're going to speak with usually one of a few different people. So it's going to be the same people that they get accustomed to and they get kind of comfortable with working with them. It also helps that our customer retention team is phenomenal. They do such a good job at putting out fires for our clients, right? So if there's anything the carrier will allow us to do for them, we do it. And it could be something as simple as reordering their ID cards, explaining a benefit, answering a question on how something's covered, what there's their copay, all the way up to helping them untangle a claim where they got billed $10,000 for something that had a $300 copay. Just happened the other day. And what our people will actually do is they will call the carrier, find out what the problem was with the claim, get that information, call back the provider, provide that information, because oftentimes most customer service billing issues, 9 times out of 10, I would say, is when the left hand won't talk to the right. And that type of service is invaluable to a senior. They don't really know how to handle these situations when they pop up. They don't really know who to turn to. And we essentially are willing to do some of that heavy lifting to kind of help them untangle. And then, of course, our outreach during AEP is huge. We make it a point to make sure that we do a lot of outreach. We communicate to them changes. And I think because we work so hard at it, our clients see that. And many of them don't want to leave us. I've had this theory lately where I think there's 3 segments of your book of business for Medicare clients. I think you have your 20% that are your raving fans. They'll never leave you. You really have to mess up bad to lose somebody in your core 20%. I think you have 60% that like you and they're happy with you, but if you make a mistake, they're probably out. It's a little bit more transactional. Right. Then you have the bottom 20% of clients that don't care. It's strictly transactional. They don't care about you.
I'm going to interrupt you for a second. This could be a good summit talk. Like this could be, I feel like this is fire. Like this is really, really
Yeah.
good stuff, you guys. Sorry, continue,
That's
continue. I
actually that's
love
actually
this.
that's actually not a bad idea.
I know.
I've been trying to think of
I've
what
been thinking a lot about mine too. That's why I bring that up. Anyways, continue. Sorry, continue.
I might
You
actually
might,
take
I
that.
know. This is,
You guys might see this on
yeah,
stage.
this is good
Um,
content. Continue. I'm intrigued.
and but anyway, you have this bottom tier, which is I believe your 20%, your bottom 20%, and these are the people that are strictly transactional. You know, they don't really care that much about you. Anybody can fill in. They're looking for just the next, good deal. A lot of
Yeah,
decent
they'll
people.
leave you over. These are the people that leave over a dollar.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. And
Yep.
so your core, I mean, the way you need to look at it, I would say, is how can you provide enough value to your top 20%, your middle 60% to get them happy and wanting to stay. And then enough of the bottom 20% will stay as well. Really, most likely, the majority of the people that do leave you are going to be the people in the bottom 20%.
Yeah. It
And
makes
they,
sense. It really does.
yeah. And so that to me is the art of retention.
There's two things I wanted to talk about regarding this. One is if you didn't see our day 13 video, retention and cross-selling go hand in hand. Christian mentioned it in our day 13 video. The statistics behind it, I've heard, I'm trying to remember when you have two policies or more in the house, I want to say it's like 3 or 4 times higher to retain that client. It's a huge increase. So selling more policies to someone, and I'm not an advocate for over-insuring someone. Obviously, that's not cool. Don't do that. Don't sell policies to someone who are willing to buy just because they're willing to buy. But selling the right policies in the right household can increase not only that initial commission you're going to make, but also increase your retention significantly. So cross sell, cross sell, cross sell. It's going to make you more money. It's going to retain your clients better. And then I also wanted to reference our day 9 video, virtual assistants. At Hire Heroes, retention has become a bit of a specialty of ours. Christian mentioned touch points. That's a huge part of this. How many times are you communicating with the client? Are you sending them emails, answering their phone calls? Maybe you need to get ahead of something. I mean, I'll give you an example that happened internally at our agency. We had a potential massive change in a plan going away or a plan increase in price. And this is something where Christian just went through that 20-60-20. If you waited for them to get that letter that their plan's changing, that might be an instant loss of that client. However, if you can get ahead of that and you call that client, or your virtual assistant on your behalf calls that client and says, hey, Mrs. Jones, it looks like your plan's about to go up, or it looks like your plan's about to go away. We really need to make sure that you're taken care of. We'd like to schedule an appointment with an agent to talk to you. Can they talk to you this Thursday? That is the difference between losing a client or maintaining them and holding on to them. I think retention's everything, right? I mean, the
Yeah.
gold in this business is the renewals on the Medicare side. Obviously, with final expense, I think retention, that conversation's more about, are you going to be profitable? Because if you start to lose too many clients and your chargebacks go up, your profit goes out the window. Regardless of really what line of insurance you're selling, retention is super important. I'm a huge believer in retention, and Christian's the king. So whatever he said, you should probably tattoo that on your body is really what what you should be doing is take what Christian said about retention and just tat it up right on your arm. So that being said, retention concludes our day 14 of our 17-day mini course, How to Succeed When Buying Insurance Leads. Guys, welcome to day 15. We're so close to finishing this 17-day mini course on how to be successful when buying insurance leads. If you haven't already taken a look at what insurance lead promotion we have going on, do not miss this. It's a 17 days of $17 leads. you can purchase final expense, Medicare supplement, or turning 65 leads for just $17 per lead. Normally, they're more than double that. So this is a huge discount you do not want to miss. Click the link below and you can take advantage of that right now before it disappears. Today, we're talking about additional training. We have gone through 14 days, a full 2 weeks already, talking about a variety of topics that can help you be successful when selling insurance to insurance leads. What is successful? We're talking about ROI. We're talking about spending money and getting more than you spent back. If you spend $1, you get $3 back. That's the type of ROI we're trying to get rolling for you guys, and the whole reason we put together this mini course to begin with. Today's topic with additional training, where else can you find more training? If you want to go more in depth, maybe there's topics that you wanted to hear about in this mini course that we haven't covered yet. Christian, for an agent that's hungry to learn, where should they go to get fed?
Oh my gosh, there's so many different places. There's so many different places.
So many.
I mean, I'll start off with the YouTube channel, right? So
that's a good one.
Guys, if you're not already subscribed to the YouTube channel, you should subscribe to mine, which is my name, Christian Brindle. You should also subscribe to the Lead Heroes channel because there's great resources on there as well. On our channel, guys, there's some big things happening right now. I'm looking at it right now. We're averaging about 20,000 views a month on this channel right now.
That's crazy.
Okay, that like every month we're getting anywhere between 1,500 to 2,000 watch hours. So people are digesting this content and they're coming back for more. There's over 1,000 videos, free training videos on the YouTube channel. So that's a great place to start. Glen has written a book. I've written several books. You guys should check these out, right? I'll talk about mine. I'll let Glen talk about his. But, you know, I have a book called How to Be a Six-Figure Medicare Agent. Wrote it many years ago. It's basically how I broke out and why you know me today. That without the contents of that book, that wouldn't have happened. I also have a book called Superstar, which separates the top producing agents from the mediocre ones. That is a hardcore, like what it takes to be successful book. It's in your face. It's a little aggressive, but it's a great book. And then Glen has his book, How to, I'm going to mess up the title. I know it's How to Sell and Qualify, right?
How to sell and qualify. How to do something. I thought I had a copy
How to do
right
something. How to do something.
How to do something. How to qualify. I've got it on my bookshelf right there.
I can see it. I can see it back
it's right there. I can almost grab it from here. How to qualify, present, and sell final expense and Medicare supplements to seniors. Both of our books are available on Amazon. So if you go to Amazon.com and you search either our names or the title of the book, it'll pop right up.
We also have amazing training resources that if you like the training you get on the YouTube channel, for example, this is what I always tell people. If you like the training on the YouTube channel, but you just want a little bit more, maybe a little bit more in depth, we have Seven Figure University, which entails both of our courses. So Glen has a course based on his book, How to Sell, Present. Did I totally just botch it? Like,
your brain's turning into scrambled eggs.
It really is, bro. It really is. So Glen has a course based on his book that goes deep into selling, presenting, final expense, and Medicare products. Then I have Seven Figure Medicare University, guys. That is between the two courses together, they're over 200 videos strong of training content. And there's A to Z between these two programs, right? Like you want to learn how to present, how to sell, how to quote. It's in there. You want to learn how to get in front of people, how to market, how to generate leads, how to run seminars, how to work leads, how sales training, high level advanced sales training, overcoming objections, scripting, you name it, right? There's high level agency building training, all the way from how to incorporate to how to hire, how to train, how to build out systems and processes, how to scale. This is your one-stop shop with Seven Figure Medicare University. It's $77 a month right now. You get all that. So
crazy.
That's also an amazing resource for you guys. And it's updated weekly. You also get invited to my weekly training calls every Thursday. So Great resource.
The how to qualify, and I'll try to get the tongue twister out. The how, how to the how to qualify, present, and sell final expense and Medicare supplements to seniors. This is a book that was a collaboration of more than 35 different agents. It wasn't just from my own point of view, but we really tried to design an A to Z guide for a senior insurance agent on what they need to be successful. We then later on created a video course, which is what Christian was just referencing. You'll find that in the Seven Figure University. If you go to sevenfigureu.com, and we'll make sure to link that below this video. You can actually sign up, like Christian said, for $77 a month. We're adding more videos all the time. There's already more than 200 videos in that video library. So a huge content library for training. If you are looking for more information, we're giving just kind of a little taste test compared to what you'll find in that content library in the university. Another thing I wanted to give away for free to you guys, and I'll make sure again that this is linked below as well, is we have a 100 scripts and tips guide. So it's 100 different scripts and tips. It's a free ebook that you can download. And this is something, if you're specifically around scripting, we talked about kind of that introduction call script in our previous video. That was actually day 6. We were talking about what you should say or not say. This free 100 scripts and tips guide, this free ebook, has so many different scripts that you can pull. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again right now. It's not about copycatting or reading off someone's script. It's really about developing your own and maybe pulling a line here, pulling a line there, figuring out what you like to say. Christian and I talked about in that video on day 6, we talked about some different scripting, and it's funny because there were some things that he said one way, I said a different way. It was very similar worded, but we just kind of found our own way of saying it. Mm-hmm. That's kind of the key, in my opinion, when it comes to designing your own script or figuring out what to say or how to say it. So that's a free resource I'm just giving away that you can download just by clicking that link below. Any other additional training, Christian, that you can think of that we didn't mention here already?
I mean, the only thing I can think of is, like, if you guys are not for somehow, some way in the Seven Figure Medicare Agent Facebook group, man, talk about exploding, right? We're getting close to 8,000 agents
Very
strong.
Close. Yeah.
I think by the end of the year, we'll be at 10,000.
I think so too.
And yeah, I mean, that's definitely, like, if you're watching on YouTube or you're watching this on LinkedIn or any other platform that you might see this, or maybe it's being emailed out to you, you need to be in that Facebook group if you're not already, if you're selling Medicare at all, or you have any desire to sell Medicare, because as far as I'm concerned, it's the best organic, online community that you're going to find when it comes to just free flowing information. Right. And
yeah,
we try to make it welcome for everybody. We don't allow pitching. We don't allow, any of the stuff that normal Facebook groups don't allow. But we do welcome a lot of different people, whether they work with us or not, inside of there. And, highly recommend that. So that's the only other resource I can really think of. I imagine most of you watching are already in there, but if you're not, where you been? Where you been?
Hey, I've got one, Taco Tuesday, you guys. It's a fantastic resource, over 100 episodes. Any platform that has podcasts you can find. Again, Christian and I not only did a lot of episodes ourselves, but we also invited a lot of guests on as well. So you can check that out. Guys,
Taco Tuesday is great. I have one more I want to crowbar in. That just reminded me
this close to shutting the door on him, and he literally just ripped it right in.
Seven Figures or Bust podcast, anywhere you can find podcasts, guys.
Another great podcast. Yes,
we've put out tons of interviews this year.
Really, really good,
with different agents and different agency owners and things like that, and big time people in the space. So, yeah, Seven Figures or Bust podcast, everywhere you can find podcasts.
Guys, that concludes day 15 of our 17-day mini course, How to Succeed Buying Insurance Leads. If you didn't see any of our previous videos, please go check them out.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to day 16. We're almost done if you've been following along. to our 17-day mini course about how to succeed buying insurance leads. And when I mean succeed, having a big honking ROI, my friends. And again, we're on day 16 where we're specifically talking about networking. Just as a reminder before we get into that, you guys need to take advantage while you can. There's only a few days left of our $17 final expense or Medicare supplement or turning 65 lead, where you can choose from them and with a minimum order of 30. We're talking about networking today. Glenn, what do the people need to know about networking?
There's the cliche term we've all heard is your network. Your network is your net worth. And I used to think when I first heard that, especially as like a newer agent, I thought that, that's stupid. Like, no, it's not. Like it's like, so if my friends are rich, I'm rich, like it sounds stupid, but the more I've networked and the more like, especially when like something comes up and you're like, I've got someone I can talk to who can help guide. Christian and I personally just did this ourselves. Christian and I just came into a situation where we weren't sure what to do. And so we were like, you know what? Let's talk to so-and-so. We got that person on the phone. They gave us, in my opinion, some pretty good guidance, and it helped us move forward. So that to me was a very big reaffirming moment of your network is your net worth. There's so many ways you can network to help you be successful in this business, to be successful buying insurance leads. Let me give you another example of something that could come up with insurance leads where a network could be huge. Let's say you ran into a situation where a lead is not, it's not a lead that you're able to write. Maybe they need a different insurance carrier. Maybe they ended up moving out of state. Maybe there's something that came up where you just can't help this person, but you think maybe you know someone that can, and maybe you guys can split the app together. Maybe there's a way that you guys can essentially share in that commission by passing that along. That's something, again, that happens all the time with Christian and myself. So I think networking is huge. Networking could lead to finding a better upline. Networking could lead to helping you find a better way of doing marketing, better technology. And there's so much that can come from having a strong network that I think it's one of those things where, again, most people know this information. Most people know like, oh, I should be networking. Or, oh, I did network, or maybe they did it in a small way, but they didn't really put a lot of time and energy into it. What I will say at this point in my career and in my life is that I value my network a ton. My net worth has a big part of my current net worth is from my network. And I love being able to pick up my phone and call someone that I have a relationship with and either help someone else out or help myself out. And I just think it can really help open some doors and unlock some opportunities for you guys, including when it comes to buying insurance leads that you may have not realized. If you had so-and-so in your network, you would have been able to potentially close more insurance leads.
Yeah. 100%. I mean, I have learned a ton of things from people that I have had the chance to network with and kind of get to know and kind of have in my network. And, I wouldn't be probably where we are today as a business, right? And
Right.
I wouldn't be who I am today, and I wouldn't know the things I know today. A lot of the things I know today, I learned from other people. And I think that only comes from networking and getting to know people and having a relationship and not being greedy with the things and being willing to share,
Right.
you know.
Right.
Oftentimes, like when you're somebody that is willing to share, people are willing to share with you. And I found that to be true. Like I've put so much out there in terms of what I know and what we do and everything like that. Um, I've gotten the question all the time. They're like, why do you do that? Like, why do you share all this stuff? Like, this is good shit. I've had people say that before, and I'm like,
Yeah, I've had that too.
but what I've learned is when I go to events, a majority of people know who I am for one, and they're willing to spill their beans to me, number two, on what they're doing, and because they know I'm willing to do the same for them, and we're able to exchange notes, and there's things I can take back and implement into the company. So I think networking is huge, and there's so much that has to do with that. By the way, guys, if you like networking, we have a great place to do it at.
Do we?
We do.
Do we, Christian? Tell me, where would an agent network with us at?
Well, it's sold out this year. So you
Oh,
guys missed your opportunity. Who knows what the future holds, right? On what this event might look like going forward. But
yeah.
Savannah, Georgia, first week of June, is going to be an amazing place to network. 300 strong, absolute maniacs coming
Crazy.
together for the hunt, where they're all here for one singular goal: is to come together, get better, get stronger, and go out there and absolutely crush it for the rest of the year going into AEP. The Seven Figure Medicare Agent Summit, ladies and gentlemen. 2 days in Savannah, going to be the event of the year. I'm so excited about it. At the time of recording this, we're about 3 weeks away, and yeah, it's going to be absolutely mind-blowing, mind-boggling. If you didn't get a chance to get a ticket, there's still a chance to get the recording. So highly recommend you guys do that. And it's going to be half off by doing it. So if you get it before the event, it's $100 for the recording. Get it after the event, it's $200. So make sure to pick that up, right? There's gonna be a couple good speakers. I don't know if you heard. Couple, one or two,
And if somehow you're not in the Seven Figure Medicare Agent Facebook group, obviously a network of agents that you guys have the opportunity to plug into. It, in my opinion, is one of the highest engaging, most valuable Medicare Facebook groups that you can actually be a part of. We maintain this like a lawn. When you see like those houses, it's like the perfectly cut. You got the stripes in the grass. It's just like, man, this lawn is manicured by a maniac. Like, who is keeping up with this? That is the Seven Figure Medicare Agent Facebook group.
Yes.
Christian and I are the maniacs that manicure this in such a way
Yes.
where we want just the best quality in there for you guys. We don't want any spam or low
Nothing.
quality posts. So please, 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 if you haven't already, we'll have the link to the group below this video. Join the group, and if you didn't already make it to Savannah, I'm so sorry. We'll hopefully see you sometime at a later date. For the agents who are going to Savannah, Christian, I could not be more excited to see you here shortly. And if you didn't already buy $17 leads, what are you waiting for? This is essentially your last chance. We are literally at death's door of this promotion. It is about to conclude, and you will not be able to get this type of discount potentially ever again. The way that our year goes and we get closer to AEP, the demand gets so high. Yeah, here we go.
That will be the leads if you don't hurry up and get
That's
them.
right. It'll be gone. It'll go away. There will be, no more opportunities to get this type of discount. So this is just about your last chance. We're coming into the last 48 hours of our $17 lead promotion. What is this $17 lead promotion? Well, let me tell you one more time in case you didn't already hear it. Our final expense life insurance, our Medicare supplement, and our turning 65 leads. You don't have to buy all three, but you can. They are all discounted to just $17 per lead. So for a minimum order of 30 leads, you can get $17 leads. And this opportunity gives you the chance at really being successful of getting that ROI. We have now, as of this video, 16 different topics to try to help you guys become more successful promotion. Please click the link below, grab these leads before they're gone. And until next time, what do we say, Christian?
Make sure to sell insurance at large volumes, guys. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks so much for watching all the way to the end. You're the real MVPs. We'll see you guys on the next one.
Happy selling.
Happy selling.